Hey everybody, this is Nannette, one of our kick-ass admins. She was from Puerto Rico and raised there, but she actually came here to the US when she was still a young'un. So she has a pretty unique perspective on different cultures and ways of doing things, as well as the pros and cons, the trauma and the good things about leaving one place, going to another. Um, she's also an amazing business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. I believe she's been working in marketing since 2010.
Yeah.
She's freaking amazing at what she does, and I can say that personally because I did a session with her and it was just absolutely changed everything. So if you're thinking about consulting, definitely give her a look. Um, so Nannette, we're going to talk a little bit today about a bunch of stuff and get
Yeah.
some of your thoughts to get to know
Yeah.
you because we want to know our admin team more and kind of connect to each other on a human level because we're all just humans navigating this journey. And I'd love to hear what you have to say. So to start off, could you tell me in like 20 words or less what your personal philosophy is?
So my personal philosophy is that we are humans, okay, humans specifically, um, that we have forgotten our divinity and thus our power. And so the whole process of awakening is really more of becoming aware of our power, becoming aware of our epic awesomeness. And so bringing that out into the world then gives other people permission to do the same. As far as like deities and whatnot, I definitely have a tarnished relationship with dogma. And so I try not to get too much into that. But definitely, I'm divine, you're divine. We're all gods and goddesses. It's rad.
I love that. What, you're not up on the dogma? Come on now.
No, I'm just not.
You don't like everything in a tiny box. Just fanaticism. um, So tell me a little bit more about the work you're doing because I think it's really cool, it's super exciting, and of course I'm biased because I actually had the privilege of getting to work with you and it did absolutely create amazing results. But tell me what you do, how you feel about it, and kind of where you see yourself in the future as far as career.
Sure. Yeah. So what I do essentially is help spiritual entrepreneurs ground their message and ground their methods so that they can actually reach other people and make money. And the reason that I personally do that is a little selfish. It's because I feel that my purpose, like my big purpose in life, is to help shift more of the economic resources back into the hands of the people who are here to do good. And so I think that a lot
Amen.
of our current issues are related to the fact that the people who are here to do good have been, let's just say, pious and not really going out there for income. And now we're not playing the game of currency. And so I'm trying to help people kind of connect with that and then obviously build businesses that are fulfilling and sustainable, but for the big purpose of moving more of the funds into those hands, because I know those hands will help heal like the planet and like heal humanity and things like that. So it's a big picture thing. And I love doing it because one, I get to meet the coolest people ever. I get to work with some really amazing people. One of my clients is actually like a clown. Like she teaches people how to like be clowns because it helps them connect with their inner emotions at a deeper level.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, my job is so cool. So yeah, I do it because I love meeting all sorts of interesting people, but I really wanted to put this knowledge to a noble use. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I totally agree with you. If we had more money in the hands of the right people, there would be more good things happening with it in the world because it's just an energy. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. And
Mhm.
it sounds like this is kind of your passion. You're going to keep going for a while
Oh
on this
yeah,
then.
yeah.
Yay!
I'm in the process of developing more resources at lower price points to get people started. So, right now to work with me one-on-one, it's gotten to be my time has gotten to be a little tight. And so those hours cost more, but I am building resources for people who are just getting started to be able to afford and start getting their mind wrapped around some of these business concepts. So that then eventually they can grow and grow and grow. And maybe one day we'll work together, but maybe not. And that's fine too. But that's kind of what's next for me, courses and like retreats and things like that.
Oh man, I love that. I'm excited. Tell me a little bit about food. Like, what kind of foods do you love? What is your relationship to food like? Do you notice any kind of mind, body, spirit connection, or how it's impacted you?
Yeah. Well, as you know, Dan and I have worked together on food specifically, like 2 years ago now. I used to be a vegan. I'm sure there are lots of vegans in this group. But my personal like beliefs now are that everything works in perfect harmony. And I have tried to heal my body with plant-based foods only, and I have found that it has not worked for me. And I follow a pretty strict diet because I have a lot of food sensitivities because my gut is not healed. So it's kind of come to the point where I've had to choose myself over my beliefs about like food. But I do source ethically like treated meat. I buy local grass-fed whenever possible, but always grass-fed. Um, and I definitely feel lighter when I eat more plants, though. I definitely try to eat more plants every day. But yeah, dogma,
Yeah,
you know how it
yeah,
is.
I feel kind of the same. So would you say that it sounds like you're an omnivore now, but would you say that you're still not consuming, as much animal products as say the average
Oh,
person out there?
yeah, probably. I'm probably consuming less still. And that is because of my personal health situation. Like I can't process that much fat. So I
Yeah,
can't eat too much animals, like that have a lot of fat. So,
yeah.
but I guess if I, yeah, I would say probably about like 50% of what the typical American eats, probably.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Mhm.
All right. Do you move or exercise? Are you active? And how do you feel this impacts you, whether you do or don't?
So I live in Phoenix, where it's been like 120 degrees, like by
Oh,
9 p.m.
gross at
Um,
all.
so I mean, it's getting cooler now. Now it's like only 105 by 9 a.m. But it has definitely limited my exercise time. But I have noticed that it has not treated me well. And so actually, this morning, this like today, I decided I was going to go for a walk. I was like, I'm going to sweat and it's going to be hot, but I'm doing it. And so I took my kids and we probably got like a block in. They're like, carry me, it's too hot. So we came back home, but then we went to the
Oh,
park. Like we drove to the park, and then tomorrow we're going to be walking some more. So building more habits around it, just because I do notice that, um, again, I feel better when I am moving a lot. I personally have this like relationship with movement. And actually that started when I started training with you. I started feeling like powerful and like moving my body and like climbing up things and balancing on things. And um, it's something that I miss a lot, like a lot.
oh, no worries. When I come visit you, I can put you through tons of torture if you'd like.
I would love that. I mean, it's so much
I'll be
fun.
really nice for real though.
No, I really liked the logs. Like we would hike, like over the logs, like on all fours. That
Those
was
are
probably my
fun.
favorite part. And
Oh
the row
yeah.
machine. That was
Yeah.
like my favorite. I really liked the row machine. But I miss that like whole body movement.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard to replicate that kind of exercise without someone like you there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I can't
Yes.
just like go parkour on these walls because I'm not there yet. So yeah.
Well, it's one thing to try and motivate yourself as a mom. It's another thing to drag along a bunch of kids that are also fighting against you. Do we have to? Yes,
Yeah.
this is good for you. I don't want to do this. And you're like, oh gosh.
Yeah, no.
Like, oh, I
My
give
daughter's
up.
like, "No." And it's normally not that they don't want to move, it's that the sun is so bright that their
Yeah.
eyes hurt. So they want to
Yeah.
carry them so they don't have to like look at the sun. It's kind
Oh
of,
yeah.
but we do, I've been feeling definitely personally lately called to movement more. Like I'm going to go to
Cool.
dance classes. I've been
That's
doing
awesome.
yoga,
Yay.
like weekly. It's been awesome.
Even
Yeah.
just walking is so good. Just to walk is so nice.
Yeah.
Um, okay, tell me about your favorite like music and some of your favorite creative pursuits or endeavors.
So if I had to pick a favorite musician right now, well, there'd be two, and they're
Okay.
for two different moods. So I love John Bellion, who
Okay.
I talk about quite frequently on my profile. But he's like I think he may be like Christian or something, but he definitely is not dogmatic Christian. So he's rapping about like all sorts of things, and it's rap.
Cool.
But
All right.
it's different. You just have to hear it. His whole album has helped me heal like so many parts of my dogma issues.
Wow.
That's been really cool. And then I love Bruno Mars too, but
Okay,
mostly
that
because
is
I
kind
love
of,
dancing.
whew.
Yeah, I love dancing to his music. It just pumps me up. And then as far as art, I really am again I'm in the space of like starting all of this stuff back up for myself. I love doodling. I love writing like poetically. And yeah, those are my things right now. I'm actually looking at into my closet where I have all my painting supplies. Maybe I'll start doing that too. But
Awesome.
I'm definitely, um, what is it called? Kinesthetic. So I like to experience a lot with my hands.
Okay.
So I'm moving more into doing that. There's just been, I'm just coming out of a period where I've been having to work, 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 work. And now I'm finally like getting to connect with myself again a little bit. And
Yeah.
so I'm
Like,
like, oh,
okay, I paid the
let's start
bills.
some
I
movement.
can
Let's
play a
start
little
some art.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about play. I definitely, that's like, if I were to sum it up, I'm definitely in a place where I'm valuing play and just enjoyment a lot more than I was before.
Seriously, adults really undervalue play, period. And it's like there is no reason why we should ever stop playing. Just
Yeah.
the playing changes a bit, but you're still playing, and it's so healthy for the body, mind, and soul. It's just, oh.
Yeah. And just having like irreverent fun. Like we should always have that. Like just yesterday, I was like, man, I want to go to like one of those jumping places, like where you
Oh,
just jump
yes.
around. I'm like,
Yes.
that sounds like so much fun. And it's obviously movement, but it's also play. So
I love rebounders. They make me feel superhuman. I'm like, yeah, as I go flying up, what I really can't do with my own little quads. So I love it. I love it.
yeah.
Um, okay, now a little bit more serious. Have you experienced racism or sexism in your life? Has it impacted you? And what are your thoughts on those two topics, kind of?
Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm in a mixed race family. My husband is Black. And so that has definitely affected my views on a lot of this stuff. It's informed me. I've learned a lot. I take that stuff super seriously. And if you're on my profile for more than 5 seconds, you'll see that. I don't play around with it. I always speak up, especially with situations right now in Charlottesville, like white supremacy is not okay, not ever. And so that informs that. I have kids to worry about. Obviously, my husband, that's a big source of worry for me. And then as far as sexism, obviously I'm a woman, so I've experienced it in some ways. I have found though that like I feel more passionately about reminding women of like their power, even with sexism being so prevalent. Like you're able to still feel powerful and amazing and like still show up and still expand and still um do big things, even though you have some things stacked against you. That shouldn't take you all the way out of doing it. So yes, I've experienced them obviously, but I feel really passionate about like, okay, yeah, this is just what's happening. We have to we have to kind of work with this, and I'll do everything I can to dismantle the system. But at the same time, I'm not going to focus all my energy there because I have things to do, things to accomplish.
Oh, yeah. But so in terms of racism, I mean, what do you feel? And I don't think that's going to be a quick fix for it. That's me personally. What do you feel is the long-term picture that we can really help heal that? What's really going to change it? Because we can pass legislation all day long, and people are still going to have problems in their hearts. And like
Yeah.
this is something I've struggled with how do we dismantle it? How do we change these perceptions.
For sure. Yeah. So I've talked about this a lot, like with my husband. Obviously, we have conversations about this a lot. But I think the biggest thing is that legislating it away is what has happened, right? Like legislating away overt racism is what has happened, but it has not done anything to address the covert racism, which is what we're kind of seeing become overt now again. And so
Exactly.
I think the biggest things that will help move things forward is having more conversations open like this and saying, you know, I'm Puerto Rican, but I 100% benefit from white privilege. I'm white passing, you know, and not, and just ending it there. I benefit from white privilege, and then not going into, but I've had hard things happen to me too, or whatever, because it completely invalidates, you know, the other side. Right. And so I'm always one to like call people out when I'm like, hey, that's not okay to say that, or don't speak over people of color. Like just listen and like learn and look inward and see, okay, how have I benefited from this? You know, and then teach our kids, you know, and I don't think it's going to be over in our generation. I don't think it's going to be over in our kids' generation, but like, I would love to see us doing just a little bit more to address these things with our children, calling out the jokes that our racist uncles make, you know, and having the courage to speak up, because there are obviously so many people who cannot opt out of this conversation because they are the ones that are being oppressed, you know? And so using that elective power and saying, you know what, I'm going to create space, but also being careful to not speak over people of color when they're expressing their, you know, their totally valid feelings about the subject. So it's like pointing the conversation to them, saying, I think this is not okay, but let me tell you what so-and-so says right next to me, because their opinion is like the one we're talking about right now.
Right. Let's hear directly from them rather than postulate what they might be thinking or feeling.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's completely wrong. You know what I mean? And so just like, let's just let them say what they're going to say.
So with the situation you mentioned with your husband, Garrett, being Black, has he experienced things that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few times.
Can you give a couple incidences of what's?
Oh yeah, he gets stopped
as an
by cops.
example, he gets stopped by cops a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually why we left Phoenix in the first place. We're back here now, but he would be walking to work, like bus stop to work, and would get pulled over by cops constantly because it was nighttime. He was Black with a hoodie, with a backpack, just walking down the road, and it was late, yeah, but like he wasn't committing any crime or whatever. There's been times where we straight up like had to sit on the sidewalk, getting emotional, because he's fit a description of someone they were looking for. You know, just, I mean, it's definitely real.
That's crazy.
And the fact that I feel like I have, like, he's safer if I go with him, like if I'm there, you know, that's how I really like processed it, you know?
Yeah, that's actually funny to me because once I got to meet him, when we worked together at the family, like he's just the sweetest, most empathic person on the planet that wouldn't hurt a fly. So like to imagine him being constantly, you know, profiled and pulled over is just heartbreaking to me. And I remember, I think that was one of the conversations we had where people were talking about it, like, oh, this doesn't happen. I remember you were still living here in Washington in a progressive area, and everyone was insisting that this couldn't possibly happening around here. And you're one of the first people to speak up and say, no, my husband's been pulled over more often here. You know, and asking our friends, how many of your husbands get pulled over on a regular basis coming to and from work? And none of the people that were white were really had an issue. It was like if they got pulled over, it was for a good reason, like they were speeding, you know, once a year or something, but not like a regular routine. I'm pulling you over. So that's kind of crazy that's still happening right now. Is heartbreaking.
And like even just in like as this summer, my husband was in a small car accident. Nobody was hurt. It was very minor, but he was scared the whole time when we were dealing with the cops, you know, because like what's going to happen. The other driver was very, very aggressive, and thank goodness the cop was actually amazing. He was trained in diffusing the situation. So he calmed down the other driver and was like a really great experience,
That's
considering.
awesome.
But like that fear is real, and it doesn't come from nowhere. So.
Yeah. I appreciate you being honest about that. I think it's something a lot of people need to hear, especially people that
Mhm.
haven't dealt with it, that, yeah, this really impacts people, families, and the fact that you have to worry about him is just heartbreaking as well. There's many reasons why you should be worried, but that shouldn't be one of them.
Yeah.
Should be something someone has to worry about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate your sharing on that. We'll move into
Mhm.
something a little bit less heavy, so no worries. I know you like to read, and
Yes.
what are maybe like your top 3 to 5 books you'd recommend to someone, like your all-time
Ooh.
favorites? It doesn't have to be,
Okay. So I knew I grabbed this book for a reason. I forgot that you were going to ask that question. So I'm reading this book right now. It's called She Is One by Sarah Sophia Eisenman.
Oh,
Oh my gosh. It's a memoir, but it talks about her journey to like kind of reconnecting with the sacred feminine, and not in the pop culture way. You know what I mean? Like the deep, like ancient stuff. So I'm not even done with this book, but I can tell you that I'm going to be telling everybody about it for years to
awesome.
come. It's been like I was crying by page 3.
Wow.
So definitely that one in terms of like, spiritual awakening stories, I guess. But other than that, I really mostly read like business books. So, no, I'm
Hey,
like,
that's
oh.
cool.
Yeah, The Power of Now was awesome. When
Yeah.
I read it, the timing was really, really good for me. And then Jen Sincero's You're a Badass and You're a Badass at Making Money. The
Okay.
concepts are big, but she explains them in a really simple way, which is something that I value a lot. And so basically, that book is about like understanding that you actually have a lot of power, which is a common theme that I've been talking about. And then You're a Badass with Making Money is more about like manifesting and financial abundance, not in the traditional like hermetic laws manifesting, but just more tapping into the collective abundance of the universe. It's pretty cool.
I love that.
I like all those books. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot this one. Happy Pocket Full of Money.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that one before.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, it's so
Okay.
good. Like if you're into quantum physics at all, it blew my. I mean, we just listen to it all the time in my car.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the guy's last name is Gakandi. I don't know, but Happy Pocket Full of Money. I'm about to start making all of my clients read it. So it's really, really
Wow.
that good. It just opens your mind and you can see like at any moment I can choose any reality, and every choice, it kind of cements a reality, but even in each moment, there's infinite possibility. And there's nothing that says that you can't have everything you want in 1 second. There's no such thing as time. And so when we start trying to manifest like in the future, it kind of throws off the universe, because what we're manifesting is the want of it, not having it. And
Ah,
so
interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's like
Wow.
every single sentence is so packed. So Happy Pocket Full of Money. I would put that like up at the top actually.
Okay. Now
I
that sounds
haven't
really
read the
cool.
physical book, so I like wasn't looking at it there, but
Oh, yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, as far as emotions, how do you integrate all your emotions into being, an authentic you, especially when there's really strong ones or maybe negative ones, like how do you deal with that and still be authentic?
yeah, I have a really, I guess a system. I can always kind of catch myself flaring when it's happening. And so I'm able to feel the emotion still, but like I'm careful to not react in that state. And I think that is a learned thing, but just to process emotions because they need to be processed. I know to not react from them in that moment, but that doesn't mean they go away. I use emotional freedom technique to handle that. It's a really cool like acupressure. You tap in a series while you're voicing your feelings about something in like a very straightforward, like almost childlike way. Like I feel really dumb right now. Like this makes me feel dumb, and so you kind of go through it. And then
Oh,
you kind of go through it again, but like with affirmation type saying. So you're letting yourself feel those feelings, just like really feel into them, and then you're replacing them with new statements. So
that
I use that to process my stuff.
that sounds pretty cool. It's like you're digging deep to find out what's the thing that's really buried that needs to come up. You're acknowledging
Mhm.
it, and at the same time, you're saying, okay, now here's a better narrative that I'm going to take on because maybe it's insecurity, and you're saying, here, I am
Yeah.
this, or I'm worthy, or whatever it is. That's really cool. I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
you're careful to like say I feel these things, right? Like instead of I am these things.
Right.
And that's just I'm kind of a word nerd in that way. Like I'm always careful of how I describe the things that are around me because I don't want to put more meaning than is there. And I don't want to, give it meaning that isn't there, like,
No, I understand. Yeah, power of
yeah,
words is huge, and that's something I'm always working on, especially when I went down the shamanic path and people would be calling me saying, why did you just say that? It could be something as simple as, oh, my ADHD struggle. I'm like, why are you owning that? I'm like, what? And to really be conscious of everything you're saying is takes practice for me to be
yeah. And
mindful and
even in
think
your
about,
own mind, even
yeah,
like
what am I
even in your
speaking?
own
What am
like
I
thought
thinking?
pattern.
Yeah.
Hmm.
When you observe your thoughts and you realize that you're thinking, oh, this is a terrible day. Like, why did I just say that? Why did I think that in
Yeah.
my mind? It's
And it's
just
like it was a terrible 30 seconds maybe, but not the
exactly.
whole day.
Yeah, and if I think that, I'm already creating. It's already like self-fulfilling. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting
Hmm.
you mentioned that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
Um,
so EFT helps me process even at the mind level, like how I should be speaking to myself.
yeah.
Good.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of themes here, so I can guess. But tell me, what are you most passionate about? Like, what really drives you?
I am passionate about communication, actually, connection, um, having like full authentic expression in my own life and then fostering that in others. I think it's basically our purpose here on earth is to express ourselves like dry and not leave anything unsaid or unfelt or unexperienced. And so I would say that that's probably my biggest driving force is full authentic expression, but also like living in a way that feels meaningful, and assisting others. And I'm very other centered. Like every time I learn something, I first thought is like, I can't wait to give this information away to somebody. Cause I'm a channel. I just like to get it out and move on and learn the next thing and stuff. But living in a way that brings you meaning, it takes so much pressure off of your business ventures, off of your activities, off of, every, like your relationships, for example. A lot of us are seeking to experience purpose or like these deep self things, but we're outsourcing that responsibility to our relationships or other people,
Ooh,
you
ooh,
know?
that's deep. Yeah.
And so, like, really having people realize that nobody can provide that feeling of purpose, deep meaning, all of those things. Nobody else can provide that feeling but you. And take that pressure off of everything else. And you get to enjoy it so much more. When you put all this pressure, like, for example, on your business venture, and you're like, oh, this has to give me meaning and purpose. And like, you are looking for something there that it cannot give you. Like, it can't.
Ah,
You can exercise your meaning and purpose like a tool, right, through it, but it's not going to manufacture that feeling of like I'm living a meaningful life. So I love talking about that stuff. I
yeah.
love like helping, like defining words. I love that. Every time I say, oh, I'm giving a training on marketing, and I'll say, oh, what I mean by marketing is, and blah, 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 blah. Like I always like to make sure that people know what I'm talking about when I'm saying it.
I think that's important. So many
Yeah.
words are nebulous. You have to define it and own it. Like
Yeah.
here's what I'm talking about. Otherwise, there's like 50 things people could be running with.
Yep. Yep. And the reason I am like there is because English is my second language. And so when I learn words, I'm like, okay, so which meaning are we using here? I'm trying to remember, like, there was an instance when I was like in fifth grade, and someone said like an idiom. It was an idiom. I was like,
Oh,
oh, you can kill a bird with two birds with one stone or something. And I was
yeah.
like, what? Like, what are we saying here? You know,
Poor
I was
Nannette.
completely shocked. I didn't know what that meant. And I think that
Yeah.
that moment like really defined me. Every time someone uses an idiom around me, I'm like, what are you saying actually? So I go and like look it up,
Right? Yeah.
because a lot of these
Was
things
that?
people take for granted. I mean, even take for granted, that's an idiom. Like
Mm.
cat's out of the bag, like all of those things
Oh, yeah.
don't make sense when translated literally. And I still do some translating in my head. So
Oh.
that's why I'm so interested in definitions, connotations, and things like that, because we like there's so many times where we disagree and like we actually agree, but it sounds like we're disagreeing because the words that we're using have so many meanings, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they do. I know for a lot of us out there that are watching, a lot of people have been struggling with different things. Could you maybe talk about, give an example of a time you've like just seriously hit a wall or had a really dark night of soul, and how did you overcome that?
so real recently. So I moved to Phoenix in February and had like just one thing after another, like horrible, probably 3-4 months. And you'll notice it's like August, so it wasn't that long ago. And every single time I made progress, it was because I was remembering my power to choose my life. Like
Ah,
every single time. So we were in a living situation that was just horrific. We finally left because I was like, I'm not choosing this anymore. I'm not choosing this experience. I'd rather be
wow.
elsewhere. I don't care what that is, but this is not for me. And so
Okay.
moving out of that. And before, I want to explain that a little bit more, because people might think, oh, well, that's just because you have money or whatever. No, we did not. We did not have money. We just were like, this is not working for us. We put everything we could fit in the car and we drove around until we found a motel that would take us. With my 2 young children. So we didn't have a plan. We just knew that this wasn't working anymore. And by golly, we did try to make it work. We did so many things to try to make it work, and it just wasn't. And so we made a decision. This is not for me. I'm done with that. I'm moving. And every other challenge I've faced since then has been, me just like staying small. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm in charge of my life. I can choose to experience something else. And me making blank decision is me making the decision to stay in this. So I'm making a different decision, and not needing to know 5 steps from now, not needing to know 2 steps from now. I just knew not this, just not this. And so from that to now, I mean, it's just night and day. My life is completely different. And it all came from one, choosing differently. If something wasn't working, I'm just like, don't care, not doing this anymore. I don't care what it is, but it's not this. And 2, surrender, which is kind of a hairy topic, especially if you're dealing with dogma issues like myself. But I chose to view surrender as a surrender to the program rather than surrender to the God. And so
Okay.
like the universe runs its programs, it has its laws, it does its thing. There's chaos and order and whatever. And I'm just like, I'm here. I'm doing the best I can in this situation. Like, I'm not going to try to control everything in my life anymore. And every single time I do those 2 things, like I take my power back and also simultaneously give it to surrender. And it's just like quantum leap, like night and day. Yeah.
That really resonates with me when you said you're taking back your power, but you're not trying to take control to
Yeah.
different things. That's
Because,
that's
yeah.
that's powerful right there. That's like, whoo, put it on a meme. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny
Very
because
cool.
power and control do get, like we were just talking about, they get used interchangeably, but they're not. My power is like I'm choosing how to be here in this body and how to experience life in this body. But control is like you're trying to move other things that are not yours, that are not you, to do things that you want them to do. And so they sound the same, but they're different.
Yeah. So when you were trying to make that decision to change things, like maybe the bad living situation, what
Mm-hmm.
was holding you back? Like, what were the things you had to overcome? Did you figure out what it was inside of you? I mean, you mentioned playing small, but like,
Mm-hmm.
what's even a little bit deeper than that? That was like really that you had to get acknowledge and get past in yourself, I guess.
Yeah, I had to come to the very, very sharp awareness, I guess, that I was valuing other people's happiness and peace over my own.
Wow.
And it got to the point where it was affecting my children finally. And I was like, okay,
Mama
what am I
bear.
doing? Wait a second, because the reason we didn't move out sooner is because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. I didn't want to like put her in a bad situation, all of this stuff. It was basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it was a sublet situation that was done very unofficially, and it didn't turn out well. And so we could have left the moment we got there. We could have gotten to that house and said, no, not this, and left. But instead, we chose that house, even though it was very, very evident that we knew we were suffering there. I mean, we knew it was going to be bad. But it got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm valuing her experience and her comfort. And I mean, in comfort, not even like she was going to die if I chose another way. It was just like preferable that we chose this for her. And I was like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
What am I
Yeah.
doing? It was a
That's
very,
huge.
it's painful though to realize that you've been choosing this way,
Yeah.
that you've been like intentionally valuing other people more than yourself, more than your children, more than your spouse, because you don't want to rock the boat, right? So for that, definitely I had to like realize that that's what I was doing and get really honest with myself and say, like, have some courage, just leave. Like,
You're worth it.
yeah,
Your happiness is worth it.
yeah.
Wow, that's wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
powerful. You mentioned getting over dogma and stuff before. A lot of people would like to know, like, do you have a label or a way you describe your spirituality? Like, if you could sum it up, if someone said, what do you believe in, or whatever it is, so how would
Oh,
you
I
how would
don't
you talk
know.
about it?
I don't have it. I don't have a label. I definitely
I figured
would
for sure a
consider
Catholic. No, I'm just
myself.
kidding.
No,
Oh,
I would consider myself above any sort of religion, like more of a philosopher type. I definitely, like, I have my beliefs that are, even those beliefs are very science based. I don't know. I definitely am not like the typical new age person, because I dig into like quantum physics and stuff, not just like think about it and you'll get it, whatever. Not
right.
to be funny
Yeah.
about it.
Meditate and you will know everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you gotta like move and like do things in life.
Yes. Yes.
So, um, yeah, short answer is no. But if I had to put myself, it'd be somewhere between like Buddhist, philosopher, and maybe a little bit into like Kabbalah stuff. Yeah,
Oh,
that
that's
would
pretty
be.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I've, Buddhism, that is more of a philosophy than it's not really a
yeah,
religion. So it's,
yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so how about what things trigger you? Are there anything that makes you angry or any posts in the group that trigger you, and how do you deal with your triggers?
So my biggest like life trigger is someone telling someone else that like their experience is not valid, or like speaking over other people.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and so in our particular group, we see some posts that are very sometimes like, you're wrong. Hey, your beliefs are totally jacked up.
And
And
if you don't realize that, you're just asleep.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Oh, just now I'm all triggered again. So that's one of my biggest triggers
Oh, no.
that I see in our group, just like constantly telling people that they're wrong for what they believe. However, that's not to say that we should just take everyone's beliefs at face value. It's just, if they're inviting a conversation about it, then like have a conversation about it. But to go out of your way to invalidate somebody else is just kind of crappy.
Yeah.
So definitely that. Aside from that, it's similar actually. There's probably one root trigger, but like cookie cutter things. So like everybody has to do it this way, or everybody has to
Uh,
follow this path, or
Here's the
everybody
silver
has,
bullet.
yeah, yeah. That triggers me more on the business end because everybody's individual. Like we are all, as far as my beliefs go, we are all fragments of consciousness experiencing itself. But when you have different people with different beliefs, like you can't treat them all the same way. Like you can't, which goes into a lot of other topics, but no one size fits all. That's definitely one of my big triggers.
Oh, that makes sense. And when you
Mhm.
feel those emotions come on, you're like, "Ugh." Like,
Yeah.
how do you deal with it? Do you run with it and be like, "Rah, rah, rah, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind"? Like, how do you handle a trigger?
I am kind of preemptively talking about the opposite of those things quite often, like just in my life. So I haven't really had to deal with that, like in my body, I guess. Like I haven't really felt that triggered in my body. But when I do, especially in the group, I love you guys, you're great.
Yes.
So especially in the group, when I see posts like this, I I try to have compassion and think, okay, well, why would someone be saying something like this?
Oh, that's a good one.
And normally, as an ex-Christian, I can attest to they really, really think it's a good thing to say. Like
Yeah,
they think they're doing somebody a favor. They
right.
think it's for their better good. They're willing to fall on that sword, so to speak. And so if it's anything like that, then I'm like, okay. I mean, like, I don't think they meant anything horrible by it. I just think that from their perspective, from their vantage point, they think they're doing something good by sharing this in a totally dogmatic way.
So you're
So,
you're really taking a pause and trying to figure out intent.
mhm.
What's really going on here? And even if someone is kind of being a jackass about the way they're communicating their opinion, you're still looking to see what's the intent. Okay, they really believe this, so they feel that
Mm,
their
yeah.
intentions are good, even if the implementation is poor.
Right. And I definitely don't think that, like you're right. I personally look for intent, but I don't think intent rules in the terms of the content that you share and the things that you say. I think impact is the most important aspect. So even if your intention was good, the moment somebody tells you, hey, this was not good, then you
To
have to kind of
listen.
take inventory and say, how could I have communicated that better? How could I have, started a conversation about it instead? And you see, this kind of goes back to the race thing when people are just like saying things. Like, maybe take a pause and see how horrible that came off, and
Yeah,
maybe edit what you're saying.
almost any
So,
hot issue. Yeah, politics,
mhm,
racism, you name it. Yeah,
yeah,
or when people talk about abuse or different things, it's like, do you
hmm
realize what you just said? Yeah, that makes sense.
hmm
All right, as far as the group goes, okay, here's the $1 million question.
yeah.
What do you like and dislike about moderating groups, and what do you wish people understood about being an admin?
I love basically like scrolling through the feed. I try to do it a couple times a day and seeing just it opens my mind. I'm learning new things all the time. I'm grateful for being able to see some of the posts before they go live. um, so there's that. And then as far as like things I dislike, really it would have to be that people really take offense when things are deleted or removed or not approved, and it's like really not anything to be offended about, but people do get offended. So I guess that would be that. It hasn't happened in a while to me, but it's happened. And then what I wish people knew about adminning, it's a lot of work, especially for our group. It's like ginormous. I swear at least one of us is constantly working on the request list. And then the post
Always.
list too. So it's like always, I think we finally
Yes.
got to 0 a couple days ago.
Yeah,
Oh my
there
God.
was much rejoicing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and
Yeah,
that's great because it means that this is like something people are willing, they're waking up. There's a huge
yeah,
movement to that. So I love, like in our particular group, I love being there to see how much this is kicking up, like how quickly the group has grown is not an accident. I'm just really excited to see where things go, how how everything, like how we as a community grow together, how we learn from each other. Yeah, I really love the experience of being around so many different people. I know that not everybody loves that, but I love that because
No, I agree.
I'm someone who
Yeah.
likes to challenge myself all the time. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, me too. So a member was asking, are there any posts or insights that you feel drawn to, and is it more about learning? Is it about connecting or interacting with other people, or do you enjoy like just observing the people as they may fail or succeed in certain concepts or topics, or like what draws you in? And
mm, I have actually been thinking about this a lot recently because there's a lot of times where I want to contribute to the conversation, but feel that there are people in the group who've been doing this like longer than I've been alive. So I don't,
oh,
I don't. Sometimes I'm like, what if I'm wrong about this?
oh,
But I
wow,
love, yeah, yeah. I know, and I'm like so confident, but I'm like, oh, maybe I won't say anything. So
oh,
in regards to that, I just kind of let the pros do the talking there. But I like to observe. I go through threads a lot. I just go, especially if something's like really popular,
you're
I'll
a
go and
lurker.
watch. Yeah,
You
man.
lurker, you.
Yeah, I love it though. I find that if I were to be posting more, I would have a like I would be very specific with what I'm saying because again, it tends to there's a lot of feelings
Words.
about a lot of things, and so yeah, I just think it's for me. I really enjoy watching the conversation. Plus, I have so many conversations like in my life all the time. Like my messenger, I can't keep on top of like so I don't really create more than I need to. Even as an extrovert, I'm like, all right, that's enough. So
Right?
I love lurking because I can, still take in without having to exert for a minute.
That
And
makes
I
sense.
normally have like so many client calls and stuff. So it gives me a chance to flex my introvert muscle a little bit.
I completely relate. Now I'm an introvert, so I'm on the other side of that. But relate in the same way of sometimes you just got so much going on that you don't want to jump in and participate because now I'm going to get
Right.
notifications. And it's not that I don't want
Yeah.
to talk to anybody, but it's almost like, I don't know, cake. If I eat one slice, I'm okay. If I eat the half a cake, I'm going to get sick. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, enough
Yeah.
communications for today. Let's just lurk and read. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, and and I know that if I were to post something, hopefully, I mean, I hope it would start a conversation, but then notifications would get overwhelming. Like right now, we've been talking for like, I don't know, an hour or something, and I'm betting I have over 100 notifications,
Oh,
just because of how active I am on Facebook.
makes
So
sense. Yeah, I have the
it
same
gets a little
problem. If I leave
overwhelming.
it for too long, it's like there's 200 notifications and it won't even let me scroll to all of them. So people are like, why didn't you respond? I'm like, oh man, I don't know. I didn't get I've got several
Yeah.
hundred I must have missed. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
But
and
I
I
know how
feel
that
bad when I
goes.
miss them, and so that's why I'm constantly turning notifications off from things that don't matter.
Well,
I'll
you asked some really
comment
good questions.
and then I'll unfollow, like I'll unfollow it.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do that. I would
Yeah,
encourage everyone to follow your page because you ask some really good questions. Half the time I'll be scrolling through and I'm like, oh, Nannette just asked a really good question. It's like head on. I can't run away from it. I'm like, dang
yeah,
it. Oh, and I love it. I love it.
yeah.
It's like,
It's super fun.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody
So
can
thank
friend
you for
me.
asking the
I
good
mean, as long
questions.
as you enjoy my type of content, all my stuff's public, so you can go and look and see on my page if
Okay.
you like it. But if not, it's okay too.
What's something you did when you were a child or that you do now in your life? Maybe it's different or the same that really just makes you lose track of time. Like you're just so happy. You just,
Mm, it's something that I didn't get to do as a child, but I wanted to, and then I finally got to do it as an adult, and that would be dance. I wanted to dance
wow.
when I was, yeah, I love dancing. It's really fun. And I think it's partly like my ethnicity. Dance is really big over there. It's part of our culture, but my parents like didn't want to put me in dance because
Oh,
I was in pageants already. So they're like, that's too much.
oh,
Yeah. Anyway, um, so I didn't really get to do it until I was older, but I like have always felt this like super insane connection with dance. Every time I see a dance video, I'm like sobbing, or just like physical movement that has a purpose, which is why I think I enjoyed our time together so much because it wasn't just like repetitive and, you know, boring.
Yeah, yeah.
So like
It's a meaning
dance,
for it.
yeah, dance and um, like using fitness, but like in a, what's it called? Functional fitness? I don't remember what you
Yeah,
called it,
yeah.
but
Natural
that,
movements. Yeah, natural
that
human
one.
movements. Yeah. Like you're
Yeah,
not just
those
doing
things
a
I
bicep
can,
curl, you're doing something that actually is gonna translate to the real world. Dance,
yeah,
that makes sense since you said you like your kinesthetics. That makes total sense. That's
yeah, yeah. And
awesome.
I'm trying to like set my life up. So I'm doing that more and expressing myself that way more. But outside of that, when I get in the mood, like deep cleaning sometimes, I just like, you know,
Whoa. Okay,
like
that
if
is
I'm
all
normally,
you.
normally when I'm like, okay, it doesn't happen often. Okay.
Feel free to
But
come over here and get lost anytime. No.
when I'm dealing with some like real tough emotions,
Yeah.
that's definitely like what I can do. And all of a sudden it'll be like 4 hours later, my house is spotless. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, now that you put it
Okay,
that
kind of like
way.
associative episode or whatever. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Now that you put it that way, yeah, there's times I've been really angry and I'll just be like, go clean something, and I clean the crap out of
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
I'm working through things because, if I don't do something physical, some of that anger
Yeah.
just doesn't have anywhere to
Oh,
go.
that's another one.
It's rare
Driving.
that I get that angry. It's very rare, but
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
driving.
I don't actually get angry like that much. It's weird. But driving,
Yeah.
I'm able to communicate with my husband so much better, like my deep thoughts and stuff when we're driving. And so sometimes we'll just get in the car and just go.
Who
And I'll
drives?
drive
Oh, okay, you drive. All right.
and he'll be asking me questions. And normally I like diagnose ADHD. So when someone asks me, how was your day? I'm like, oh no, that is like the worst question. So many things happened today. And have you heard the mental like cabinets thing? It's like you have these cabinets in your mind. And when someone asks you a general question, they all fly open. You're like,
Yes, that's an
I don't even
ADHD
know
thing.
how to
You're
pick
like this,
the
this, this, this,
answer.
this, this, this.
And
Yeah.
so I normally give like a really surface answer. I'm like, oh, it's fine. And then I'll just like go. But when I'm driving, I'm able to answer those questions a lot better. So they're not as vague in the answer. But I could do that like for hours. And I have driven across the country like, I don't know, like 6 times now. So
Well, now I know who to take a road trip with.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me, okay, what are your thoughts on happiness? And it doesn't, okay, now that's nebulous, so whatever
Yeah.
comes to
I'm
you.
all, that's a
Whatever
big
comes to
question.
you. It's very general. And so whatever comes to you, just think and say what you think about it.
So I think that happiness is like, it's surface, but that's okay. It doesn't have to, not everything has to be deep. Not everything has to be, you know, like philosophy conversation. And I
Right.
think that when you create more instances of happiness and you choose more situations that bring you happiness, then you're able to show up better for yourself and for others. So I think that like that should be one of our goals as a human being, to create and choose and seek out happiness that doesn't hurt others or anything like that, but seek out happy moments, because I think that those add up and help us, get through things and create positive memories and things like that. So yeah, just
I
make
love
more
the
of it.
fact that you just said create and choose like 6 times.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're not feeling this is something that happens. Like I got married or I got the job or found my soulmate and now I'm happy. Now things are going better and now I'm happy. It sounds like you're
Yeah.
saying this is something you choose and create no matter what's going right or wrong in your life.
Right. You're totally right. And that is very much where I'm at right now. Because I just had some really, really big wins in my business. And the next day when I was like sitting there, well, the first day where I really like took it in, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go buy something. Like I have this money here. I need to go buy something. And it was like really weird, but I didn't. I just stayed home. The next day, I realized that I was still stressed, like I had no money. Like, even though I had like 1,000 times more money than I had before, I was like still in that place of stress. And I was like, the money has nothing to do with it. Oh my gosh. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And
Yeah.
so I like
Bing.
just started choosing. I'm like, I'm choosing growth. I'm choosing, joy. I'm choosing expansion. over and over and over in every moment, because that's what feels appropriate to me. And I think that is because I'm very much in a growth mode right now. Um, I don't know. I'm thinking it has something to do with my astrology. I'm just like, I'm trying to
Yeah.
expand. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
time. I'm here to set up my empire.
Woohoo.
And so, like, for me, I think that I had that moment, and it was so special and important for me to experience it, because that's when I realized, like, it did not matter if I had no money or all the money, because I've had lots of money, no money, and now lots of money. Well, before lots of money, I had no money. So I've been both. Like, I've been everywhere in between too. And it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't. Some of our like happier days since we've been here were when we were living in a motel. My kids had, like, they still want to go back to the motel,
Of
and I'm
course.
all like, maybe let's not. But
That reminds me of
it's,
like The Pursuit of Happiness
yeah,
with Will
yeah, it
Smith.
was.
Like, this
I
kid
had a
had no
moment like
idea
that.
this was a trauma because it was all a game to him. Like, oh, cool, we're doing this thing, camping out, and to the average adult, it's highly traumatic, which shows again about perception, choice, creating. It is
Right.
what
And
you
that's
make of it.
exactly what it was like in the motel. My kids loved it. They had PBS for the first time because they had the TV in there. And so they're like, wow, look at all these new shows we get to watch. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Um, and we walked over to like the grocery store next door, and they still talk about it. Like, they remember it very fondly. And I think that really helped me too, like, understand that it's just how you're looking at it. Like,
Yeah.
they're not to invalidate ever. Like, there are some things that are just objectively bad, and that's okay. But after you acknowledge that, then you can choose your feelings on it, and move forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, tell me about the last time you couldn't stop smiling.
Oh gosh, it was probably after my one of my most recent clients. They decided to pay in full, and normally I do payment plans. And I was so excited because I was able to go get my son a red remote control car. He'd been asking for one for like 6 months every
Oh,
day, and not just every day, like every 30 minutes for every day.
I remember you posting about that.
Yeah, and I got him one, and I was just like so pumped about it. And I got my daughter, she likes Princess Poppy from Trolls. So I got her one, and it was just, I mean, those toys were like $20 respectively. So it wasn't like anything huge, but it was just so cool to just be able to go get it. And it's not a big deal. And like,
Yeah,
we're not going to be broke about it.
yeah.
Like,
For a lot of
so
people, that is a big deal. It's a stress, and you
yeah, it
feel like a
was,
failure as a parent of like, why can't I buy this small thing for my child? And
yeah.
it's
And
it's
even
good.
just like 3 or 4 days before then, we had been at Target. That's where we got the toy. And my son was like, oh, I want that one. I was like, oh, we can't, honey. You can only pick something that's like $1, because that's all we could do at the moment. But like, my
Yeah,
life moved that quickly that
yeah,
overnight, really, I was able to have a totally different experience.
yeah. That's awesome. Speaking of kids, I can hear them in the background. Your
Uh,
kids are all so adorable every time I see a picture. Um,
yeah.
well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They are though, and they're good
No.
kids. Tell me about a time where you just kind of you thought to yourself like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Like, accomplished feeling that way, or
Sure, anything that comes
yeah.
to mind, because it could be interpreted a couple different ways. So roll with whatever you feel.
Yeah. I think actually with your class, when I was working with you, I think there was one time where I was actually like able to move from like through the whole course finally,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
like falling off like 20,000 times.
yes,
And
yes,
I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I did this. And like, I think that feeling of accomplishment is something that I've been looking for recently. And so that's like very much near the top of my mind. Like, the stuff that we did together is very much at the top of my mind, because I remember that feeling. And it was almost exactly 2 years ago, when we were doing all this, because I had just gotten my like allergy testing and stuff. I'm remembering it now.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so like, accomplishing a physical feat like that definitely was like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
yeah.
Um,
There is something powerful to
Yeah.
doing something physically with your body.
Yeah.
It's very empowering. I think
Yeah.
it takes most people by surprise. They start doing something. I'm like, I just did what? That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
That's
And when
cool.
I did yoga for the first time in a group setting, I had done it by myself a lot, but I went to a class. I
Ooh,
went to my first class and
nice.
I was like, I did it.
Oh,
I sobbed.
nice.
I
Oh,
like, yoga makes you feel things.
yes, it
And
does.
of course she plays like Fix You by Coldplay during yoga. And I was like, okay, like, was I supposed to not cry? Because this is the
Yeah, I'd be crying too.
yeah. So I like sobbed while going through the flow and everything, but it was good.
Good. All right. So tell me, we talk a lot about the group. We talk about finding commonalities as humans. We're
Mhm.
focusing on wellness of body, mind, spirits. We can go out and change the world. Like, what? Like, if someone asks you, like, how can we change the world as a community, as a group, and where do you fit in that personally, or what are your thoughts that you have on that?
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, like how do we actually really go change the world? Okay, and what does that look like to you? And is there some way that you fit into that personally, as far as maybe a cause you feel called to, or things you feel that we as individuals in our group can do, like
Yeah.
to really impact change?
I mean, I think I'm going to be honest, and this is, I don't know how people are going to feel about this, but I think conversations change the world. I think like having open communication have a large part in changing the world. And, if that's the least that we can do, then let's do it. Right. But
Okay,
I do think that there is a lot of power in like actually like having decisions that align with who you are, or making decisions that align with who you are. So for example, if you're passionate about a certain cause, like actually donating some time, um, in that particular cause, I think that really helps a lot, and it helps you kind of gain more perspective about it. But like volunteering, I think is a really great way to help change the world. Just speaking more openly. I think a lot of us don't speak openly enough about what we feel is true. And that's not an accident. I think it comes from like shaming in the past or whatever.
definitely. People
Feeling
might
like a little
react.
weirdo. Yeah. And for those of us who believe alternative things, like it's going to happen. But like your courage to continue speaking up is valuable in actually shifting the situation. And if you believe in collective consciousness and stuff, like really putting our minds together and like trying to make certain things happen together is a really good way to kind of shift reality.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
would agree. That's really cool. Is there anything you'd like to say to the community before we wrap up, or anything that's on your heart that you'd want to let them know? Or
Yeah. Like, just, it's okay to speak up on stuff like this. It's okay to share. If you really are feeling a lot of fear about, like coming out about these kinds of beliefs, or coming out in general, whatever, like take a step back, find some support, find somebody, even if it's just a friend who you can kind of run back to after you've blurted out your piece, and start speaking up. And when you start, you will cultivate more courage as you go and you repeat it over and over. And I think that is really what the world needs right now. Make it extremely clear where you stand on certain issues. Um, because there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of people who are being intentionally vague at the moment, and the world needs you to be specific right now. So even if it's scary, right? What's the saying? Say the tell the truth, even if your voice shakes.
I
Just do
love
it.
it. I would
And I
agree.
think that the more we start doing that, the less scary it will be. Just like with anything, the first time you go work out, it's like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
then like, the second time is probably worse. But then like
Yes.
by the fifth time, it's like, all right, this is just routine. I get to be fully expressed in this moment, because not only do you help the world by actually expressing yourself, you help yourself, um, because we are expressive creatures. Like, we're here to create and co-create reality. And so when we hold a lot of our thoughts and ideas in, we deprive ourselves of that feeling of feeling fully expressed. Like, have you ever accessed that part of yourself where you're like, I said everything I need to say and I feel like I held nothing back? that's an amazing place to be, and it's completely
Wow.
possible, you know?
I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much for taking the time today, and thank you for everything you've given to the group. And I'm going to sweet talk you in doing a live session, some Q&A in the
Yeah.
group sometime soon, because I
Yes,
would
for
love
sure.
to. I would love to hear more of what you have to say on everything. So,
Okay,
especially on
awesome.
all the things you're doing now with the business coaching. That's amazing, and you've been skyrocketing. And I can definitely attest to working with you and seeing explosive results. So I hope that more people take note, and at least at minimum follow your page. So then they can be asked the really hard questions like me, where they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute."
Yeah, I like to
Really
trigger
gets you thinking
people,
in a
by the
good
way.
way. What's
Trigger
that?
warning, you're going to be triggered on my page. It happens.
Oh,
I ask the
yeah.
hard questions.
Well, same
uh,
as mine. We just kind of put it out there. Boom.
yeah,
People are like, what? You said what? I'm like, well, let's talk
yeah.
about this. Let's
It's
talk
actually
about
a
it.
marketing tactic. I can talk about it some other time. That
Okay,
I only
cool.
work with people who are like down with all of the stuff I say. So
Nice.
it's like, okay, now by the time they actually get on a consultation call with me, there's like no question about how I feel about certain things. And it just like really saved me so much time.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm so grateful to have you on our admin team. I just can't thank you enough for everything
Mm-hmm.
that you bring to the community, even when you're just lurking. Because I know
Yeah.
you're doing stuff behind the scenes. I know we
Mm-hmm.
consult on a lot of things as a team, and
Mm-hmm.
I love what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I look forward to chatting with you again in the group or lurking with you, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.